The president's former deputy campaign manager and Fox contributor David Bossie preparing for the as well. David, nice to see you this morning. We've been talking all morning long, of course, about Preet Bharara, who refused to resign position as one of the U.S. attorneys, and instead saying, "I was not asked to. I'm not resigning. You're going to have to fire me." In which case, he was then fired. What do you make of this? Why did he hold out?
Well, look, I mean, it's a publicity stunt for him. I'm disappointed in him, quite honest. This is a thing that goes with the territory. You serve at the pleasure of the president, whichever president you work for. And just like others have said, Janet Reno came in and fired 93 out of 94 U.S. attorneys in 1993. The only one that survived was Mike Chertoff.
Right.
And he survived because of a Democrat senator asked for him to be able to continue on that work. Serve at the pleasure. And he may have been told, you're going to stay on for a little while, but this is obviously a little while in the administration.
Well, Dave, that's what we want to ask you about, because you were the deputy executive director for the transition team, and Preet Bharara was at the Trump Tower on November 30th of last year, meeting with the president-elect. This is what he had to say, Preet had after that meeting.
A good meeting. I would absolutely consider staying on. I agreed to stay on. I have already spoken to Senator Sessions, who is, as you know, the nominee to be the attorney. He also asked that I stay on, and so I expect that I'll be continuing to work at the Southern District of New York.
So that was his characterization of the meeting. What's your sense of what was said? Was he asked to stay on for all 4 years, or was it just a polite conversation?
No, I think it was much more of the polite conversation where it was indicated that he would be staying on. Look, that was in November. He was not told then to have your letter of resignation on January 20th, which has happened in the past with presidents, incoming presidents and incoming administrations. Now mid-March, I think that these guys, specifically him, and I'm sorry, he has done a very good job in that position. I hate to see him go out this way.
Well, no one is saying he hasn't done a good job and that he's not well respected this area, in this city. Well, Ben Rhodes has been up tweeting about this morning. He says, in democracies, the rule of law is not supposed to be partisan. In what way was Bharara not doing his job? Exactly what we're saying. I mean, no one is accusing him of not being good. This is really about just putting people in place that have your priorities, that your agenda, that they're adept to go through with the job.
That's right, to work with the president's agenda, his priorities, and the attorney generals. Look, back in November, there was, he said he met with Senator Sessions, but Senator Sessions is now Attorney General Sessions. And he's had an opportunity to look far and wide, and maybe he has somebody in mind that he would like to see hold up his priorities as U.S. Attorney in the Southern District.
Who do you think made this call? This came from Jeff Sessions or the president himself to say, this is the time we're going to do it all at once. We're going to ask all 46 to resign.
Well, look, first of all, there's 90 some odd U.S. attorneys. Yeah, 93, and so this is about half of what Janet Reno fired in one day. So this is par for the course. And let me just say this: I think it would be obviously coming from the Department of Justice, looking to fill those jobs with Senator Sessions folks who he believes will live up to what his standards are. And I think that would be his recommendation to the president. The president pulled the trigger.
And it's not surprising that someone like Ben Rhodes would tweet that. He's a speechwriter for President Obama.
Not at all.
Preet Bharara was a Obama appointee. So this is standard stuff. They're trying to make it look like there's a purge, right? Like this authoritarian President Trump is coming in. I mean, it is really an intense mischaracterization to make the president look bad.
It's the permanent campaign against President Trump. He is winning. He is leading the permanent campaign against him. That's all they have left.
Well, and it's not just liberals this morning. As you know, there are staunch conservatives there who are not having it when it comes to the president's plan for health care. Sarah Palin, in an interview with Breitbart News, saying this about the new proposal from President Trump on health care. Remember, she says, this is government-controlled health care, the system that requires enrollment in an affordable, unsustainable, unwanted, unconstitutional continuation of government-run medicine. And even in this new quasi-proposal, there is still an aspect of socialism, and that's the whole premise here. She's calling the president's health care repeal replacement plan socialism. Is this battle they're about to face?
Well, it is. And the White House, needs paying very close attention. Look, President Trump is a deal maker. He wants to make a deal. And I think that Speaker Ryan owns the bill. And I think that he owes it to the president to make sure he's listening to all sides, that the folks who are bringing forward these common sense, repeal, amendments they'd like to see, being told no. I think that they need to get together at the same table instead of saying this is a binary choice. You're either for Obamacare or you're for Ryan care. I think we need to have a little more of unity in this.
So what I hear you
situation.
saying is that this process needs to be a little bit ongoing. The Freedom Caucus should be listened to by Speaker Ryan, and maybe President Trump, it was misrepresented to him that it was a consensus bill out the gates.
It is clearly not, and I think the message has been clearly delivered to the president this week that there are 33 votes against this in the Republican caucus, and I think that's going to not allow any repeal and measure to move forward.
David, I got to ask you, Lewandowski, in an interview with Axelrod the other day, said he thinks that the president's staff may have let him down, and he points specifically to this health care rollout consensus there, and also with the executive order in the early of his presidency. Do you think that his staff has let him down and sort of told him, yeah, he's on board with this bill, on with it?
Well, I think his staff, who is doing an incredible job, are listening to Speaker Ryan and his, and I think that they are reporting to the what they are being told. So I think that the House leadership has to come together in an honest moment of reflection and say we must work with our conference to get this bill passed, because we cannot have President Trump's momentum derailed by poor communication skills in the House caucus.
Yeah, well, the biggest lesson we learned from 8 years ago with Obamacare is being passed straight through partisan lines. I mean, not only getting Republicans united around this, but also some other voices that are willing to lend themselves to the table to get health care right. Because at the end of the day, this might be the most important thing we're going to tackle going forward.
Well, President Trump wants to get repeal and replace done. And then he wants to move on to tax reform. The optimism that you guys were talking about a few minutes ago, what is going on in the economy with jobs, and this president bringing together, corporate CEOs to the table in the office, White House long hold, and President Trump needs to continue his optimistic view of America, and that's the repeal and replace provision is clearly one of those, but we have to get to tax reform.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. I mean, reaching out to the Freedom Caucus is going to make it difficult to get Democrats on board, but you got to cobble together a coalition.
You got to find a way to do it.
No matter what. David Bossie, thanks a lot.
Good to have you here this morning.